Quick heads up, this story gets graphic and disturbing. Viewer discretion advised.
At this crime scene, even seasoned police officers cried like babies. A small, quiet town. A father is sitting on the porch of his own home with a rifle in his hands. He's completely calm. When the police arrive, he doesn't run, he doesn't resist. In the yard, his 3 little sons were found ages 7, 4, also 3 with no life. But that's not the most horrific part. The most horrific part is what he forced one of his sons to do just minutes before he died. Plus, what he told the police about his motives. Hey everyone, Dwight here again. Before we dive into today's story, you know the drill. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Fess up where you're watching from, drop your city in the comments, let me know what time it is where you are, plus what the weather's like. By the way, I realized I wasn't narrating my videos quite right for true crime, so I took a few public speaking lessons, then bought a new microphone. If you saw the picture in the community tab, that's the one I'm talking about. Spoiler alert, it's absolutely incredible. I'm personally getting an aesthetic thrill from how my voice sounds now, so from here on out, the narration is going to be on a whole other level. So guys, go make some tea, grab some cookies, because we're getting started. Alright, so before we really get into what happened, I want you to just picture this place for a second. We're talking about New Richmond, Ohio. It's one of those classic American river towns, the kind that seems like the very definition of peaceful at first glance. You know, a place where everybody knows everybody, people say hello on the street. Look, it has its history. It survived some major floods, was even part of the Underground Railroad at one point, but now it's just a normal, tight-knit community. So it's in a community just like this, inside one of the nice, modest homes on Laurel-Lindale Road, where the family in this story lived. At the center of our story is a 32-year-old man named Chad Dorman. He was living there with his wife, Laura, her daughter, Alexis, plus their 3 sons together. 7-year-old Clayton, 4-year-old Hunter, then 3-year-old Chase. Then on June 15th, in this quiet, sleepy town, something happened that would shatter that illusion of peace forever. Police were called to the Dorman house after Chad, according to reports, 3 little boys. He didn't just kill them, it seems he also shot his wife Laura in the hand while she was trying to save them. The only ones who survived were Alexis, who was somehow unharmed, then Laura, who was wounded in her hand. The details of this case are just horrific. Honestly, with every new piece of information, they only get worse. It all started on the afternoon of June 15th, around 4:15, with 2 911 calls that came in at almost the exact same time. The first call came from inside the house. On the line was a woman, completely hysterical, screaming that her baby. That was Laura, the boy's mother. At that exact moment, outside, her daughter Alexis was sprinting down the street toward the fire station. It was practically right across the road, yelling that her father was people. Someone heard her cries, leading them to also call 911. Almost instantly, every available patrol car in the area was sent to the scene. You can hear on the dispatch audio, the dispatcher telling the fire station staff to lock their doors, to stay inside. He also instructed an ambulance to turn off its sirens, most likely so they wouldn't startle the shooter. When officers arrived at the home, nothing could have prepared them for the horror they were about to see. 3 little boys were guard. Their father, Chad, was just sitting calmly on the front steps of the house, a rifle next to him, with this completely blank look on his face. Despite the medic's best efforts, the boys were pronounced right there at the scene. The body camera footage from the police has since been released. I have to warn you, it's incredibly difficult to watch. You can hear the mother's frantic screaming in the background, but the boys in the video are... The details are so graphic, I really can't describe them here on YouTube, or the video will be taken down.
Where's he at?
The shooter's on the porch.
Get him right here. You got him on the porch.
We've asked, that's the last place we've been told.
You show me your hands now! Stand up and walk towards us! Stand up now! Walk towards us! Stand up with your hands up!
We got a visual in the veil. Not showing his hands, not following commands.
Stand up now!
Still not showing hands, so we're following commands. His name is Chad Dorman. Chad Dorman.
I know, but we gotta go. I know, but we can't.
If you're going to need first aid and he's not complying, and you know he's a shooter, shoot him.
We gotta find cover first. We ain't no good if we ain't safe ourselves. We need to come from this side where we can see them. Don't take cover behind her. We see them. We're going to approach from this side. We got cover right here.
6 covered, 29 and 63 attack on.
Show us your hands now! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up now! Stand up! Stand the fuck up!
EMS to stage and air carrier is going to go ahead and fly whenever any units can advise.
Get your hands out of here.
72.
Tell them we're 21. It's in the air.
Those guys can confirm that there's people that need first aid, and that's the shooter. He's not complying. They need to take care of the
I got it.
victims. They have to shoot him and shoot him.
Man, I ain't trying to hurt nobody. I'm completely sober. Never did drugs a day
63,
in my
we're
life.
21. Get the EMS over here.
Well, I did drugs when I was little, but I don't do drugs now. I'm sober. I'm not trying to fight you. Gatlin,
63.
get your butt inside. Gatlin, get your butt inside.
We on primary?
Now.
29, we got 3 kids down.
3 kids down, 16 feet up.
Gatlin.
63, we're 21.
Knock
Have
it off.
EMS respond over here.
You're clear, they're being advised.
Robert 34, just started mass casualty response.
63, do you want them to respond to the Laurel Lindale address? Where exactly do you need them?
We're right in the front yard. What are you doing, man?
Hey, are you copying all this?
Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt
You
nobody.
got anything on you?
No, I ain't got nothing, man. Phone, that's it. I ain't mad. I ain't nothing. Just make sure that dog don't come out. I don't think he'll bite you. Just don't reach for him and try to grab him and pet him.
All right.
He won't bite you.
What's going on, man?
Nothing. Can I stand up? It's kind of uncomfortable.
I'm gonna
I
get
ain't
you
gonna
here
do
in a
nothing. I ain't
second.
running away. You can do whatever you want with me.
Here. You the only one else inside the house?
What?
You the only one else inside the house? Sit down right here.
My daughter, she ran over to the fire department.
Sit down.
It's my stepdaughter.
Put him in the cage.
This is Wilson.
They're all being advised to come. They've requested 2 additional medics. There's also air crews flying, but they need an LV and medic coming. Yes.
Can you get the wallet out of my back pocket?
21.
Yeah, the rope remains solid. You fucking use it.
Yes, sir.
Take the call, I'm on the loss right now. Yeah, 9 is where Chief and Captain's away. 34.
So just imagine Laura in a state of total shock, just taken away from the place where this nightmare unfolded. The thing is, she still doesn't know the worst part. It was only later that evening, after doctors had treated her, that one of the detectives had to approach her, then tell her that her boys, they didn't make it. They were officially pronounced deceased. Then, as the details of what actually happened in that yard started to come out, the community was just not prepared to hear it. Turns out, this wasn't some sudden investigators believe Chad had been planning this for months. He apparently lined up his 3 little sons right there in the front yard. There are reports that one of the boys, though it's not clear which one, tried to run away into a nearby field, but Chad went after him, caught up to him, returning him to the house, back to his brothers. At some point, Laura, their mother, tried to step in. She rushed at him, tried to wrestle the rifle away. That's when Chad... After that, once the only person who could protect them was neutralized, all 3 of his children were one by one. This was a planned... These 3 small, innocent boys, They never stood a chance. Here's another detail, something that really shows how chaotic the situation was. A reporter named Tanya from the local station WCPO later wrote that she already knew the boys were dead while she was live at the scene, but detectives had asked her plus her team to not say it on the air until Laura could be officially told. Then came the initial bond hearing. Chad's lawyer asked for bail to be set at $75,000, but when the prosecution got their turn to speak, they started revealing even more horrific details. Their own request was something else entirely.
And the facts I have for you at this point are as follows. The trauma that this man has inflicted on his family, the community, law enforcement, first responders, and all of the rest of us who have any idea what's going on here is unspeakable. There's been a full admission in this case, Judge. The case is still new. We're still discovering facts. But the evil horror of what we know is impossible to process. In an act of just incomprehensible cruelty, the father that stands before you lined up his 3 young boys, and he executed them in his own home with a rifle. They were ages 3, 4, and 7, Judge. In an act of desperation to save her children, the mother at some point grabbed the gun that father was wielding. We know that one of the boys was able to flee into a field near the home. And again, we know from his admission, father hunted that boy down, drug him back to the property, and executed him in front of witnesses. The mother was shot through the hand in her attempt to protect her children. Judge, I asked the court in setting this bond to just begin to imagine their fear. This was the man that every day they woke up looking to for protection, love, guidance in all things. The man they trust more than any other person on earth, the person they rely upon to keep them safe from harm. He was their world, he was their guardian, and he executed them in cold blood. We know that from his admission. By that same admission, Judge, he has committed one of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune to see. To make things even more disturbing, Judge, this was no haphazard act. Again, by his own admission, he planned the events of this day. This did not happen on a whim. He's confessed to what I believe is the worst crime, at least I hope, that I'll see in my lifetime. I hope it's the worst fact pattern that ever comes before this court. Judge, it's important for the court to know in the bond we're going to request today, for the court to understand Claremont County deputies, Monroe Township Fire and EMS, and other first responders bravely respond to the scene where they don't know what's going on. They did not know what they're facing, and they come into a scene that no one can ever be prepared for. No law enforcement training, no training of any kind prepares you for this. It's easy to forget that these are men and women with families, children, feelings, emotions. They're not some automaton performing a delegated function. They're people. They were required to give CPR to gunshot children, 3, 4, and 7-year-old children. They held these boys in their arms, knowing there was nothing they could do to save them. How long do those scars last? What day do you wake up from that and you're healed? How do you unsee such an abomination? The bond factors this court needs to consider today are set forth in Criminal Rule 46, nature and circumstance of the crime charged, and specifically whether the defendant used or had access to a weapon, including the seriousness of the offense. It's the most serious offense that we have on the books, Judge. This is it. You can't commit a more serious offense. So the nature of the crime charged is the worst crime that can be charged. Did he have access to a weapon? Yes, obviously he did. The weight of the evidence against the defendant at this point, Judge, we stand here with a full admission of the defendant. That also goes to the confirmation of the defendant's identity, and witnesses on scene did see at least part of what happened. Next, the court is to consider the likelihood this person would return the court if a bond were issued. Again, this is the most heinous crime with the most severe penalty under the law that we presented to the grand jury. That alone would be a major factor in discouraging a person from availing themselves to this court or any other. And the thought to flee and the likelihood of flight is great in the state's opinion. The danger he poses to the community is a factor that this court can consider, and I think with the facts in front of you, Judge, we can't name a person that poses a greater threat to the community. As his prior record goes, Judge, it is fairly minimal. He was charged with domestic violence in 2010. He is not, to my knowledge, on probation community control. Judge, the facts in this case are hopefully like no other we will ever see. When this case gets indicted in the Court of Common Pleas, I am certain that a no bond hearing will be held, and I would hope that would be granted. But at this point, this juncture, we're going to ask this court to issue a bond we've never asked for before. I'm going to ask for a bond of $20 million. I hope I never need to request such a bond again.
Thank you. Date for preliminary hearing?
The date for the preliminary hearing, Judge, is 6/26.
No objection. The preliminary hearing will be set for June 26th at 1 p.m. At this point in time, bond's going to be set in the amount of $20 million cash or surety. Anything else at this time, Mr. Gast?
No, Judge.
Mr. Dale? Mr. Kalm, anything further?
Nothing at this time.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so this is where something really strange happens. Remember how police found Chad on the front steps? He was sitting there totally calm, completely emotionless, next to the rifle, right after he had 3 sons. But in the courtroom, in front of the judge, we see a totally different person. He suddenly just breaks down sobbing, putting on this whole show. To be honest, it's just sickening to watch. The weirdest part, though, came at the very end of the hearing. When it was all over, Chad mumbled something that nobody could quite make out. On the recording, it sounds like CCO2. What did that mean? No one really knew for sure. Later on, there was speculation that maybe he was asking for a separate cell at the Clermont County Jail, for protection from the other inmates. After the hearing, the prosecutor, Mark Teckelvey, came out to speak to the press. What he said just underscored the absolute horror of the situation. He told them that in his entire career, this was the single worst case he had ever seen.
This is by far the most sickening, horrifying crime I have seen. You can only imagine that the terror that these little boys experienced as their father, the protector, was murdering them. Unfortunately, the mother saw this. You can imagine the immense trauma, terror that she experienced, and we will do our utmost within my office to see that this defendant never sees the light of day again.
So, to really understand the weight of what the prosecutor said, you have to know this one thing. Mark Teckel has been working in Clermont County for 34 years. His career started way back in 1989. I mean, just imagine the number of horrible, tragic, truly strange things a prosecutor sees over 34 years. This case, he said, was the absolute worst. After that hearing, new details about Chad started to surface. I went to his Facebook page. What I found there was, honestly, it sent a chill down my spine. Just a few days before the killings, on Monday, the 12th, he changed his profile picture, also his cover photo. If you just glanced at the page, you'd see a loving father posing with his sons. It becomes just, not chilling, to think about what must have been going through his head while he was making those changes, knowing what he was planning to do just a few days later. I also looked into his criminal history. There were a lot of minor violations, mostly traffic-related stuff, but there was something much more serious. Back in 2010, he was arrested for Keith Dorman. To be fair, that case was later dismissed because Keith just never showed up to court to testify against his son. On Saturday, June 17th, Keith gave an interview. He explained that the incident from 2010 was simply a misunderstanding. I can sort of understand a father trying to protect his child, even after something like this. But still, Keith described his son Chad as a fun, loving father. He said that in his view, Chad just snapped, that the person he saw in court that wasn't his son. He described Chad's eyes as looking empty from the inside, repeating over again how that wasn't him. He also mentioned he wasn't allowed to speak with Chad, though he desperately wanted to. When someone asked him about a possible motive, he was at a loss, suggesting it could have been anything: finances, psychology, his job, but that he couldn't know because they wouldn't let him talk to him. He kept referring to Chad as a super dad. He insisted he wasn't the type of person who could do something like this, that he was, overall, a good guy. Eventually, he became overwhelmed, then just hung up the phone. I can only imagine the shock, the grief his parents, Keith, his wife Gloria, must be experiencing. But to call him a super dads don't do things like this. They don't line their children up in the yard, especially not if it was planned for months, which, according to reports, Chad himself confessed to. That doesn't exactly sound like someone who just snapped. It's also worth noting, by the way, that during that same court hearing, when the lawyer was requesting bail, he stated that it was Keith, it was Gloria, who were prepared to post the money for him. Officially, the motive for what happened still hasn't been released. There are rumors circulating that there were serious problems between Laura, Chad, that things were leading to a divorce, but I have to stress, that's unconfirmed information. However, in my opinion, committing an act this horrific against your children in front of their mother, well, it has the look of extreme revenge. If they truly were having problems, I can absolutely imagine him doing this just to make her suffer for the rest of her life. He an innocent teenage girl who was forced to witness her little brother. There was another 911 call that day. The person who made it also gave an interview.
Grim day in Claremont County that started around 4:15 when a woman called 911 saying her babies had been shot. Around the same time, Missy Hockey was driving to Kroger and saw a teen girl running for help.
She was running with a little black lab and she was screaming, "Call 911, call 911." She says, "My stepfather is everyone in my household."
Hockey called 911 as police rushed to the scene on Laurel Lindell Road.
I wanted to get her in the car, but she just refused to leave her family, and that just says testament of how much she loved them.
So, in the aftermath of this tragedy, nearly everyone the reporters talked to kept saying the same thing. They described it as a quiet neighborhood, just full of good people. But, like it so often goes, once you start to dig a little deeper, it turns out things weren't exactly perfect. Here's the thing. One neighbor came forward with a totally different story, at least when it came to Chad. So, while everyone else was painting this picture of a perfect family, this person's account was, well, the complete opposite.
That 32-year-old Chad Dorman is charged with aggravated murder. He's being held without bond at the Claremont County Jail and will be arraigned in just a couple hours here in Claremont County at the Municipal Court. The Sheriff's Office says more charges could be added. Now, the boys were found shot at a home near the corner of Laurel Lindell Road and Claremontville Laurel Road. We learned that an unknown woman called 911 screaming that her babies have been shot, and just 3 minutes later, a separate caller who had driven by called 911 and said that they had seen an underage girl running down the road saying, quote, her father was killing everyone. Now, when the sheriff's deputies came to the house, that's when they found Dorman sitting outside on a step. They also found the 3 boys unresponsive in the yard with gunshot wounds. Now, we know that they did try life-saving measures until Monroe Fire and EMS arrived, but the boys did die at the scene. Now, the boys' mother, a 34-year-old woman, was also outside of the home when officials arrived. We learned that she also had a gunshot wound to the hand and was transported to UC Medical Center. Now, you guys have been hearing from a neighbor who was home at the time of the incident. He spoke with us and he told us really what type of person Chad Dorman is and what he heard and saw from the scene.
All right. So, after the tragedy happened, while everyone was talking about the quiet neighborhood, another neighbor emerged. Her story painted a very different picture of Chad. She came forward publicly, sharing that, from her observations, he drank every day. She said she often heard him yelling at his children, that one time he even the neighbor's dog that got out of its yard. She mentioned she'd called the police on him before. If that's true, it starts to make more sense why he was so insistent with the officers that he wasn't drunk when they arrived. Although, in my opinion, he still seemed way too calm to be under the influence of alcohol. Maybe it was something else. Who knows? But despite all that, the community rallied so strongly around Laura. also around the memory of her children. An impromptu memorial grew outside their house. People brought flowers, toys, candles, so many things to remember the 3 little boys whose lives were. At the nearby baseball field where the boys played, another memorial was set up. The local team players honored their memory with a moment of silence, followed by a prayer. The Richmond New Youth Sports Association started collecting donations for the family. On Saturday evening, a relative named Rachel published a tribute to the boys. I want to share some of what she wrote. She expressed that she wanted the world to know how amazing these little ones were, that they were so much more than this tragedy. She described them as happy, cheerful, funny, kind, loving boys who were beautiful, who deserved to be remembered. She wrote about how they'd fish, how they'd play ball, how they loved fiercely with their whole hearts, how they played together just as hard. She finished by saying nothing would ever be okay without them, but they needed to be seen for the blessings they were, for the happy lives they lived, for a mom who loves them more than herself, that they were, in her words, perfect little babies. That house, which was once a home to 4 beautiful children, now just stands as a stark reminder of how horrific people can be. Through all of this, the image that struck me the most was a photo of a small children's bicycle in the yard, right there where the boys took. Okay, but now let's go over some new details that have come out. This past week was published. It was the same for all 3 boys. Let me tell you, it was incredibly difficult to read. Clayton Dorman, age 7, Hunter Dorman, age 4, Chase Dorman, age 3. It said, 3 brothers, united in life, now together for eternity, as God has brought them to heaven for endless days of fishing, playing outside well past bedtime, loud laughter, continuous giggles. They loved without condition, sharing their big hearts with everyone they could make smile. It went on to describe them. Clayton, affectionately known as Clayton Man, loved building with Legos, riding go-karts, telling jokes, also singing. He adored his best friend, his dog Gatlin. His love language was giving gifts whether he found them or made them himself. He loved his family, often taking care of his brothers. Hunter, affectionately known as Hunter Dog, loved going to the creek to catch frogs. His love for baseball was so strong he'd sleep with his ball, even his glove. He loved calling his mom, his sister, pretty girls, then telling them he loved them every single day. Chase, affectionately known as Chasers, adored the swings, plus he couldn't wait to be a baseball player like his brothers. He loved playing with dinosaurs, also pretending to be a superhero. He was the best hugger, always wanting to be right next to his mom. He will forever be known as Mommy's baby. The obituary continued. They are survived by their loving family. Then, at the end, there was a request. It said, please wear bright colors, then join the family for a celebration of life on Monday, June 26th. In lieu of flowers, please send donations to the organization that gave the Dorman family so many happy memories. Donations will be used to enhance field number 4 in their honor. We've all seen the body cam footage by now, but I wanted to show you one specific part one more time.
Joe, now! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up now! Stand up! Stand the fuck up!
The stage and air carrier is going to go ahead and fly whenever any units can advise.
Get your hands out of here.
72.
Tell them we're 21. It's in the air.
Those guys can confirm that there's people that need first aid, and that's the shooter who's not complying. They need to take care of the
I got it.
victims. They have to shoot him and shoot him.
Man, I ain't trying to hurt nobody. I'm completely sober. Never did drugs a day
63,
in my
we're
life.
21. Get the EMS over here.
Well, I did drugs when I was little, but I don't do drugs now. I'm sober. I'm not trying to fight you.
63.
Get your butt inside. Gatlin, get your butt inside.
We on primary?
Now.
29, we got 3 kids down.
3 kids down, 16 feet up.
Gatlin.
63, we're 21.
Knock
Have
it off.
EMS respond over here.
You're clear, they're being advised.
Robert 34 just started mass casualty response.
63, do you want them to respond to the Laurel Lindale address? Where exactly do you need them?
We're right in the front yard. What are you doing, man?
Hey, are you copying all this?
Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt nobody.
You got anything on you?
No, I ain't got nothing, man. Phone, that's it. I ain't mad. I ain't nothing. Just make sure that dog don't come out. I don't think he'll bite you. Just don't reach for him and try to grab him and pet him.
All right.
He won't bite you.
What's going on, man?
Nothing. Can I stand up? It's kind of uncomfortable.
I'm gonna
I
get
ain't
you
gonna
here
do
in a
nothing. I ain't running
second.
away. You can do whatever you want with me.
Only one else inside the house?
What?
You the only one else inside the house?
Yeah.
Sit down right here.
My daughter, she ran over to the fire department.
Sit down.
It's my stepdaughter.
Put him in the cage.
This is Wilson.
You know, I just can't shake this one image from my head. The picture of Chad just sitting there on the porch steps, calmly, after everything he'd just done. Look, his composure is one thing, but now we have the recordings of the 911 calls that were released. These calls, they reveal a totally different side to this story. They show the absolute chaos, the horror of that moment, which stands in such a stark contrast to Chad's. So, the first call we're going to look at came from a passerby, a woman named Misty Hakey. Just try to picture it. She's just driving, minding her own business, down a quiet street, when all of a sudden she sees a teenage girl come running out of a house. The girl is just sprinting, screaming. She's in a total panic. It was Alexis. She runs right up to Misty's car, then tells her something that would make anyone's. She frantically explained that her stepfather would everyone.
911, where's your emergency?
There's a girl running down the street seeing that her stepfather and her family. It's on the corner of where there's a body shop and the fire department. Do you know what road this is?
Okay, what's your name?
Get into the fire department.
What's your name?
Do you know what road this is? Laura Lendell Road.
You said what?
It's Laura Lendell Road.
Okay, and what did the female say to you?
And she says that her stepfather is in her house. I did. I'm on the phone with them right now.
Did she say how or what was happening?
I asked her to get in the car with me, and she said she couldn't leave her family. But I think she ran to the fire department.
So she went to the fire station. What did she look like?
She's she's probably a young teenager, probably like 16 maybe, with long blonde hair. And she has a black dog.
Did she say anything about a baby?
I don't know about no baby. She said she just couldn't leave her family. But I see a car running around. I'm sorry?
Do you see anything from the house?
So I drove down the road a little bit, so I was afraid that I was going to get shot myself since I interacted with her face to face. So I'm just about maybe 3 houses down. But she's waiting at the corner. I don't know what she's doing, but I kind of still see her in the corner. But I saw a car kind of came around and whipped around. So I'm not exactly sure if that's him or if he's chasing her or not. I'm sorry?
What kind of vehicle was it?
I saw it. It was like a gray. Did you see that car whip around? It's one of the fire department guys.
Okay.
I think maybe a fire department guy. It was a regular kind of Focus-looking gray car.
Okay, we have help on the way. Thank you so
Dark
much.
gray. Okay, all right.
Call us back, okay, and steer clear of the area at this time.
There's one more 911 recording from a male neighbor.
Oh, are you inside where you're safe?
I'm standing outside where I can see the lady.
Okay.
I'm across the street at Lindale Automotive.
Can you tell how many people have been shot?
I think 2 children.
Okay. All right, what was
that
your
I've
name,
seen.
sir?
My name is...
What's your last name? All right, we've got help on the way. If you could just try to stay inside so that you're safe.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
So, initially, Chad was charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder. His first court appearance took place on Friday, June 16th. I mean, picture the scene. Chad is brought into the courtroom for the first time. He isn't wearing a standard jail uniform, but a special green gown. It's the kind of garment they use for inmates who are on suicide watch. The hearing itself was very brief. It lasted only about 8 minutes. But in that time, the prosecution managed to explain just how dangerous they believe Chad is to the public, before they could even ask for a specific bail amount, which would become the highest in the county's history. The judge set it himself at $20 million. But that was just the beginning. On June 22nd, a grand jury officially handed down a whole slew of indictments against Chad. The total number of charges reached 21. This broke down to 9 counts of aggravated murder, 8 counts of kidnapping, plus 4 counts of... Let's break down what that means. That's 3 for each boy. but with different legal specifications. You see, under Ohio state law, if you restrain someone's liberty by threatening them with a weapon, it's considered. Thanks to the indictment, we now know the specific weapon he used, a Marlin Model A22 rifle. Relate to him. Laura. On June 23rd, Chad appeared in court again. This time, he was in an orange jail jumpsuit. This hearing was much longer. He was appointed a public defender. Then the prosecutor began to read every single one of the 21 charges, one by one, slowly, methodically, announcing the potential penalties for each. After every single charge, the judge asked if his attorneys understood. After each of the 21 counts, including all 9, Chad Dorman pleaded not guilty. When the reading was over, they moved on to the issue of bail. The prosecutor, of course, requested he be held without the possibility of bond. Here's where something interesting happened. The defense didn't object. It seems like they knew it was a losing battle. Maybe they didn't want the prosecutor to start revealing even more horrific details of the case right there in the courtroom.
As to bond statements,
Yes, Your Honor. I'll be discussing bond. Your Honor, as the court is aware, pursuant to Article 1, Section 9 of the Ohio Constitution, this...
Judge, we're not going to object to bond.
We pass on.
Meaning that if he's asking for, you're going to ask for a no bond?
Correct.
And
we're not opposing that.
Are you comfortable with that, Mr.
No,
Coleman?
the Constitution says where proof is evident.
Continue. Go on, continue.
Judge, I think
Make a record.
Thank you, Your Honor. The court needs to have some understanding of the facts. What we have here is the planned slaughter of 3 little boys, ages 7, 4, and 3. The first one shot was the 4-year-old, shot in the house 2 times, then sustained 2 bullet wounds to the head, causing his death. The second child shot was a 7-year-old who fled the residence, ran some 300 feet from the residence, and was gunned down from behind by the defendant. We then approached this little boy who was injured, incapacitated, alive, and shot him in the head twice from close distance. There were powder burns on the boy's head. And then he went after the 3-year-old. And there was a struggle with the mother. He ripped the child from the mother's arms and put a bullet in his head. At close range, there were powder burns on the 3-year-old boy's head. Your Honor, those facts are important for the court to know in terms of this being a capital case. We find, Your Honor, my conclusion is that proof is evident and the presumption is great, and that he be held without bail.
All right. Thank you. Defense has nothing to add?
No, Your Honor.
All right. The court's going to order based upon Article 1 of the Ohio Constitution, Section 9. It's been amended on November 8th of 2022. The bond in this case be no bail at the present time.
There was one more thing I noticed at this second hearing: Chad's behavior. Remember how he was sobbing at the first one? Well, this time, nothing. A stone face, zero emotion. Maybe he realized his little show didn't work, or maybe the reality of what he'd done was finally starting to sink in. Who really knows? It was at this hearing that the prosecutor started to reveal even more horrifying details from that day, details that are, honestly, difficult to even comprehend. The coroner had previously mentioned that one of the boys. Now, the prosecution confirmed it. My heart just broke hearing the story of 7-year-old Clayton. Just imagine the terror he must have felt. He ran into a nearby field to get away. This is where there's a slight change in the official story. Initially, it was said that then brought him back, but now the prosecutor says Chad ran after him. The little boy, but he was still alive. That's when Chad walked over to him. It just feels like the more we learn about this case, the worse it gets. From his mother, that is probably the most horrific thought I have ever had to process, because as a father, I can't even begin to imagine that moment. I can't describe all the details here on YouTube, but believe me, it was pure horror. You know, after these details came out, I saw a lot of comments online, People started blaming Laura. They were writing about what they would have done in her place, how they would have fought back, even with... I just want to say one thing about that. No, you don't know. None of us knows how we'd react in a situation like that, unless you've actually lived through it. You don't know if fear would paralyze you. You don't know the emotional, the mental state you'd be in when your body just shuts down, even while you're screaming on the inside. Let's not forget one key fact that the prosecution itself confirmed. Laura fought. She tried to save her children. For that, Chad in that moment. Right now, Chad is facing the which makes this case even more complex, which is likely why we're hearing fewer details than we'd like. Just like last time, after the hearing, prosecutor Mark Tekel came out to speak to the press again.
I can't go into a whole lot of facts, all right, because this is a death penalty case, and my goal is to have this man executed for slaughtering these 3 little boys. It is an incomprehensible act of horror that he perpetrated on this family. So again, that is my most important focus right now, is to ensure that they are protected and they're safe. And my hope and wish and prayer is that someday they will be able to find peace.
Even though the case isn't closed, some documents have been made available through the Freedom of Information Act. They paint an even more detailed picture of what was happening. For example, a statement from one of the deputies specifies the exact location where the one was in the side yard near the porch, while the other was in that same yard, but closer to the end of the driveway. But there's something else. In the dispatch audio recordings, you could hear someone mention that several shots were fired at the fire station, which is right across the street. The documents obtained through the request confirm this. In one deputy's statement, he wrote that dispatch had relayed a message from the firefighters. They were reporting that a man was actively shooting at their building. Here's the thing. I don't want to get into pure speculation, so I'll say this right up front. This has not been confirmed. But when you start putting these facts together, one very terrifying possibility starts to form in your mind. We know that Alexis, his stepdaughter, was running specifically to the fire station to get help. We know that someone was at the station. Is it possible Chad at his stepdaughter as she was trying to get away, only he just missed? Then you remember where Clayton was found near the end of the driveway. It makes me wonder, was he trying to run with his sister? Were they both trying to make it to safety, but only she made it out? Again, this is just me putting the pieces together based on what we know from the documents. Please do not take any of that as established fact. It's been almost 2 weeks now, yet the community is still trying to process this tragic loss. Recently, people who knew the boys well spoke with journalists, their baseball coaches.
They're just devastated, and they're trying to heal, but that's going to be a very long process.
For the 2 eldest boys and their older sister, these fields felt like a second home.
He just like hitting.
Tony Brock coached the 4-year-old in T-ball.
Number 7, he was a funny kid. He always liked to joke around, kind of like his older brother. He would always, give you dirty looks. We'd play little games.
Messing around like his big brother.
There would be times where in the middle of the game, in between pitches, he'd pick up a little bit of dirt and throw it at the umpire. And I'd have to get on him and say, hey, pay attention. And he'd just look up and give me this little smirk.
Dwayne Kuhn coached the 7-year-old for 3 years. Number 99.
I saw him in the future being a pitcher, just his attitude and his tenacity out there on the field.
Striking out his competitors, like his big sister.
It's really cool to watch someone that has the drive to want to continue to pitch.
Carrie Lally has coached the Dorman boys' big sister for 7 years. As hard as the past few days have been, the boys' sister has found the strength to return to the circle.
Our last week of softball, we were not going to participate in the tournament, but she reached out and wants to play and honor her brothers. So we're making it happen, and we will be playing in the tournament this weekend.
In the middle of all this pain, there are these small glimmers of light, like the story about Alexis. I'm glad to see that she's using sports now to try, in some way, to cope with what happened. Her coach, her teammates, they all seem to be doing everything they can to support her through this incredibly difficult time. Or there's a story that Clayton's coach, Dwayne, shared. He remembered what a kind boy Clayton was. He had seen him less than a day before the tragedy. He recalled a recent moment when another 7-year-old player struck out. It was Clayton who walked over to comfort him, telling him it was okay, that he'd struck out before too. Memories like this, stories about the boys, about their kindness, their silliness, about the little people they were, they continue to spread through the community. People have held several prayer vigils, one at the elementary school, another at the same baseball fields where the kids played. As of this recording, the GoFundMe account for the family has raised just under $270,000. Laura's sister, Rachel, announced she'll be managing those funds until Laura is in a position to handle it herself. The plan is this. First, the money will go to cover funeral expenses, then for therapy for those affected, with the rest set aside for other needs to help them move forward. As you probably remember, Chad was the sole provider for the family, while Laura was a stay-at-home mom. So without the generosity of all these people, I'm sure the financial stress would just be piled on top of her unbelievable grief. After losing 3 of her 4 children, finances are the absolute last thing she should have to worry about. There's still no official motive that's been released, so a lot of speculation about the relationship between Chad, Laura continues. But honestly, we don't know much. We know he was arrested back in 2010. That charge was dropped after his father, Keith, didn't show up for court. Keith still insists the whole thing was just a misunderstanding. The only thing we know for sure about prior domestic turmoil comes from an interview given by one of the neighbors, Richard. He described Chad's general demeanor as that of an angry man, saying not a single day went by where he wasn't screaming at Laura or treating her poorly. I will be keeping you updated as this story develops. So if you don't want to miss any of those updates, be sure to hit that subscribe button below. It's completely free. It just makes sure new videos show up on your home screen. I'll see you down in the comments.